We have here the 2022 Mazda CX-9, and this is going to be everything that you need to know about this vehicle. So let's get started. What's new for 2022? Well, they've added all-wheel drive across the board, even in the base model. However, the price did go up by $350 for the new 2022 CX-9s, but honestly, that's not bad, especially since they're offering all-wheel drive as standard. They also added a new trim level known as the Touring Plus, which I don't really recommend getting. I think just getting a Touring model with the Touring Premium package is the way to go. However, I'll talk more about that later on in the video after the interior segment, where I break down all the trim levels and the pricing. So let's transition over into the exterior now. The exterior remains unchanged. We have the same headlights, the taillights, and that's fine. I really like the way the CX-9 looks. I think Mazda's design language is pretty great overall. It's very elegant, very sleek, no problems, but you can leave your thoughts below in the comment section regarding that. But this vehicle is 200 inches long and the wheelbase is 115 inches total. We also have your 20-inch wheels because this model that I'm testing, it's a $48,000 signature model, which again, I don't recommend getting the signature. It's not really necessary. But yeah, these 20-inch wheels that are bespoke to this model. However, in my opinion, getting the 18-inch wheels is going to make this vehicle ride like butter. So that's kind of my recommendation, and another reason why I recommend getting the lower trim levels. It's not just to save money, but it's also to get those 18-inch wheels, which still look fine on this vehicle, by the way. Also, another thing, because this is the signature model, it gets slightly larger exhaust tips, which if you care, well, there you go. Now let's transition over into this driving segment now, because I just came to a stop, and that's going to be my first con with this vehicle. The braking performance in the CX-9, for whatever reason, it could be because the brakes on this vehicle, it's totally shot, because we have 6,600 miles on here. It just requires a little bit more brake travel to get this vehicle to come to a stop. Just something I noticed, but it's not a big deal, right? It's just something I wanted to note. Now, more importantly, we have here the 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. You get that standard here because this is a massive vehicle, weighs 4,400 pounds, and this produces 250 horsepower and 320 pounds-feet of torque. I mean, that's more torque than an E92 BMW M3, right? And it's potent, it's more than enough, but I will say this is kind of the most lethargic and the slowest, iteration of this engine, mainly because, well, this is the largest vehicle where this engine resides in the Mazda lineup, right? This is the biggest and the heaviest Mazda product that uses this engine. Obviously in the CX-5 and the CX-30, the Mazda 3, right? Those are much smaller vehicles. It feels much quicker in those particular models. And the power output goes down a little bit if you use regular fuel. So if you use 87 octane, the power goes down to 227 horsepower and 310 pounds-feet of torque. Still not bad. However, I would still recommend putting premium fuel in this vehicle. Like if I owned this car, I would put premium in it because turbo engines just like that. It's a little bit more optimized for premium fuel. I think it'll help with the longevity. If you're just going to be dumping this car in 3 to 5 years, I guess it doesn't matter. If you want to use regular fuel, you certainly can. This car, Mazda says you can use regular fuel if you need to. Also, this vehicle is rated to do 20 mpg in the city and 26 on the highway. Does this vehicle do that? Actually, it does. It pretty much meets those numbers exactly. And that's when you're driving a little bit more normally. Obviously, when you drive it aggressively, that mpg goes down. I've gotten it as low as 15 mpg in the city, right? So that's something to note. If you're aggressive with these vehicles, then it's not going to treat you well in terms of MPG. Also, if you're braking really hard, that's going to detract from your MPG as well. So just don't do that. Again, drive it like how Mazda intends you to drive, and you'll be fine with the MPGs. But this car definitely gets up and goes. That's not an issue. I think 0 to 60 is around 7.1 seconds. That's what Car and Driver tested this particular vehicle at. And it's around 130 miles an hour top speed, which I feel like no CX-9 owner is going to get up there. And you don't need to, especially in the United States. That's crazy illegal. And also, this vehicle is not at its happiest doing crazy adrenaline type driving. That's not necessary. Just cruising at the speed limit, that's where this vehicle is at its happiest. That's why I don't care that this vehicle feels a little bit slower compared to a CX-5, because that's not what these Mazda products, that's not its happy place, right, for these Mazda cars. However, I will say this, the transmission, the 6-speed automatic, no problems there, because you can put this vehicle into its sport mode and the manual mode, and you have these paddle shifters here. This vehicle responds so well to your downshifts, your upshifts. It's really well calibrated. Now, ride quality, I kind of mentioned it when I spoke about the 20-inch wheel. So over certain bumps, it can feel a tad bit firm, but for the most part, 98% of the time, this ride's so smooth, you shouldn't really have any complaints with it. And again, that's with the 20, so that's what I'm saying. If you got the 18s, it can iron out some of those smaller bumps even more. Now, the larger bumps, it does a great job absorbing that. We have this McPherson strut suspension up front and a multi-link in the rear. The handling is definitely decent. However, I think Honda products handle better than Mazda's, but this is up there. This is definitely very good. The body control is excellent for a vehicle of this size. I really like the steering. It's pretty direct. It's got the correct weight to it. It doesn't really change when you put in the sport mode, but regardless, I like driving in the comfort mode anyway, because one of the things you have to note about the sport mode is it puts you into that higher RPM band. So when you're doing 45 miles an hour, you're now cruising at like 2,000 RPM. So you're using more fuel than you need to just to do regular cruising. But if you want to play with the paddle shifters, definitely enjoy that sport mode. It's there for you. But yeah, comfort, handling, everything is definitely fine. I mean, the one thing I had to worry about is when you're turning in this vehicle, right? If you're driving aggressively, you're going to be disappointed because it's going to understeer a little bit more. And this is a lot of power, so it can kind of overwhelm the front end of this vehicle, because even though it's all-wheel drive, it's predominantly front-wheel drive based, right? So you can notice a slight bit of torque steer, if you want to call it that. Just a little bit of a resistance coming from that front end when you turn it in a little bit harder. But again, this car doesn't promote that type of driving anyway. It's just something I noticed. Again, it doesn't really matter in your day-to-day commute. What matters is just how quiet this vehicle is, because it utilizes double pane glass. In the front at least, not in the rear, but it's a very quiet machine, even at the highway speeds, very quiet. Also, we have here the Falcon tires. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. They are quiet, but they do lack a bit of grip. So if you went with like a Continental setup, there would be no compromises in grip and quietness. And also, this vehicle would feel a little bit less nervous in the rain as well if you had Continental tires on here as opposed to these Falcons, because it was pouring rain like crazy, and the car felt a little bit nervous in the rain. Again, I think that's mostly due to the tires. I think that's a pretty good overview of driving this vehicle. Let's transition over into the interior segment now. Give you a quick look around. This is a signature model, as I've already stated. So that's why you have these very nice Napa leather seats with the diamond quilted stitch going on. These are a brown seat, by the way, if you can't tell by the color. And the steering wheel is black. This is the door panel right here. We do have the 12-speaker Bose audio system, which I definitely do recommend. And the kind of wood inserts, bit of gloss black plastic, one-touch up and down windows for all 4 windows. These are double pane glass up here in the front at least, not in the rear. Just kind of step inside. So, steering wheel, leather wrapped, but again, you get a leather wrapped steering wheel in the base model as well. Same thing with the shifter. You have some buttons here on the left side. So to open and close your trunk, you have a view button that you can press. So you have a 360 view, because this is the signature. Let's kind of turn this down for you here. This is the signature, but in the Grand Touring model, you can also get this 360 camera. So you'd really have to go up in trim level to get that little feature. But the regular backup camera, as you can see, is crisp enough and is really all you need. And it will turn with the steering input. Okay, so that's the view button. And if you're in like a drive-through type situation, you have the parking sensor button, which you can turn on and off. You have automatic headlights, and you also have automatic windshield wipers. You do have paddle shifters here as well. And you know what? They do react extremely well, as I already stated in the driving segment. So they're not a waste. This is great in terms of the way they have tuned the 6-speed automatic. It really responds the way that you want it to. You have your volume controls. You have your track selection right here, radar cruise control, and your regular cruise control buttons here as well on the right side. Actually, I'll just turn the vehicle off and I'll turn it back on. Obviously, push button start, that is standard. So you see that you have those physical bezels, but everything inside of it is actually digital. Now it might be a little bit difficult to see with the sun, but I'll do my best here. So you press this info button, and that's essentially how you kind of go through these menus here. Pretty easy, not a big deal. Basically just shows you some trip information. That's about it. Moving on to this center stack right here. You have this 10.25-inch display. None of this has changed. This is all just a carryover, and that's totally fine because this infotainment is one of my most favorite in the business because it is so quick, so easy to use. It is so non-distracting. Everything is black and white, again, to reduce your distractions that you're going to be experiencing with the vehicle. So you can access your safety features right here, and you do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's not wireless, but whatever. You just have to plug it in, and you have to go up in trim. I believe you have to get the Grand Touring model at least to get the navigation button, or at least to have access to Mazda's navigation, but you might be able to upgrade it through the dealerships. I'm not really sure, but regardless, really easy to use, not really a big deal. You have your heated steering wheel button, you have your HVAC controls right here, along with your heated and cooled seats. Below in the center, that's where you have your sport button control. Just sport and normal, that's all you have. I don't really use the sport mode. I like the way that this vehicle behaves in the regular mode, but in sport mode with the paddle shifters, this vehicle responds extremely well. You have a physical volume control, and this is your dial pad, if you will. This is what you use to control the infotainment screen. Again, super easy. I like how everything is ergonomically placed. Very simple. So this is your gear lever knob, physical gear lever, and once you put into the manual mode, you have true manual control over the vehicle, but again, you can use the paddle shifters. You don't have to use this little feature. You know, I am 5'11". I will say this, it is a bit cramped in here. Like, it's not super wide, as you can see. So that's probably my biggest con with the interior space of this Mazda CX-9. I have plenty of headroom. That's not an issue. And there's a lot of adjustability in this seat. You can put it all the way down, up. Lumbar support, that's another thing that they could improve upon. That I wish they had offered a little bit more lower back support. So the lumbar support could have been a little bit better, but overall this is a very comfortable seat. I'm not too concerned about that. They look excellent as well. I really appreciate their piping, their stitch work. They put a lot of effort into the quality of the seat and the quality of the interior as a whole. There's no real creaks and rattles in here. Very solid space. But yeah, the lumbar and the overall width of the vehicle is what this is lacking. However, when you drive the vehicle out on the road, it's super easy to keep it in its lane. You have a kind of a manual tilting, telescoping steering wheel. It's not an electronic button, but I forgive it. I don't really care in this vehicle. Have your glove box right here. Decent amount of space. 2 cup holders. You're not going to be putting like a canister in there, but you know, it's a decent sized cup holder. Same thing with this. Not really going to fit a canister, but you can put a decently large bottle in there. It's not a worthless amount of space in the door pockets. Now coming here to the center armrest, you have 2 USB ports, decent amount of storage space, not bad. And once you get the Touring Premium or the Touring Plus packages, you will get a little sunroof like this, but it's not going to be a pano roof, and that's fine. I really do appreciate this. I think the CX-50 Mazda is the first Mazda product to get a panoramic sunroof. But yeah, one other thing regarding the infotainment. So Mazda will give you, I believe, 3 months of in-car Wi-Fi hotspot. So I think it's either 2 gigabytes of internet or 3 months, whichever comes first. So you have that, and you can pay for it, I believe, afterwards if you really want that. But that is something that is on offer with these Mazda products in case you want Wi-Fi hotspot inside of your vehicle. Now, let's go ahead and let's move on to the back seats and the third row. You have plenty of legroom here, mainly because these seats do adjust. You can actually push them forward and back, so you can really limit your legroom space if you want. And you know what, even this is a great amount of legroom space because, well, as you can see, you can actually dig your knees into the back of the seat here. So you have plenty of legroom that way. That gives you a few inches, and there's plenty of space for your feet to stow under the front seats, if you will, if that makes sense. So that's not a problem in here. This is one of the more spacious Mazda products because you have these adjustable second row seats. Now, these are the captain's chairs. This is something that you get as an option with the Touring Premium and the Touring Plus models. In those vehicles, you can get the bench seats, which are also able to, move forward and back, just like these captain's chairs, just so you know. But with the Signature and the Grand Touring, I don't think you have a choice. You have to get these captain's chairs. In my opinion, this is another reason why I don't really recommend getting one of the higher trim levels, because I feel like for most families, you're better off getting a bench seat here instead of these captain's chairs. Although they are cool, they do look nice, and you have your own kind of center console, if you will, with your own USB ports, cup holders, and heated seats, not cooled seats in the back. And you have your own HVAC back here as well, so you can play with that in your own vents. You also have these manual sunshades, which is fantastic if you have kids or babies, if you will, in the back. Very helpful. And you have the same thing on that side as well. So yeah, space up here is not bad. And of course, you still have the Bose audio system speakers, which totally forgot to mention that when I was in the front seats. Yeah, the 12-speaker Bose audio system, definitely get it. It sounds wholesome, sounds good, plenty of bass clarity. That's not a problem. Definitely worth getting the Bose audio system. That's one of the reasons why I recommend getting the Touring with the Touring Premium package on it. That way, it's only $2,000 more than the Touring, and you get the 12-speaker Bose audio system. I think it's worth it over the 6-speaker if you can get it, if you can afford that particular package with the Touring model. So that's everything you need to know for the second row seats. Let's go ahead and let's talk about that third row now. Now, currently I have the third row seats set to the down position because you get the most amount of trunk space that way. So now that we're back here, let's go ahead and let's talk about this trunk space. As you can see, it's plentiful with the third row seats down, right? But I'll show you what it's like with the third row seats up. I mean, you kind of see it, there's a line here, and that's plenty of space even with the third row seats up. But you have some storage right here, right? Kind of, that's really nice actually. Plenty of storage space in the back of this vehicle. It's one of the reasons why you might want to consider the CX-9 over the CX-5, just to get the storage space. But let's pull this up. Very easy, of course, as you can see. Even though it's manually adjusted, it takes like a second to put them back up. And let's go ahead and let's climb in that back. But before I do, you can electronically open and close this this tailgate with the key fob, or like I just did with the button, or from up there from the driver's seat. So let's close that. All you got to do is flip this little handle right here, and you can actually push the seat out of the way like so. So don't press this button right here. I'll actually show you what that one does, that lever. Sorry. All right, a little bit difficult doing this with one hand, but this basically just folds it out of the way, if you will. But that's not what we want. We actually want to slide it out of the way. Now, the floor is a bit high, so if you're an adult, getting back here a little bit undignified. But anyway, let's push this back now. Okay, so I'm in the third row. There's not that much space up there for the second row passenger. So this is a bit tight. If I push the seat back any further, I could not really sit back here. So it's a bit tight. I'll actually scoot over there, so that gives you a better example. Because there's plenty of space right here for this particular passenger in the second row. And yeah, this is not going to work. So yeah, that's pretty useless. I mean, even for children, I feel like this could be a bit tight because there's just no room for your feet or your legs, right? So you have these cup holders, you have a little USB port right here, all in vain, honestly. This is really only for an emergency. I feel like this is not that practical. Yeah, this is pretty worthless back here. That's why I recommend just folding it down, because once you fold the third row seats down, you have so much space in the trunk, way more space than what you get in the CX-5. So that's why I feel like, and you have these third row seats as, versatility, right? You can use them if you need to, but for the most part, just folding this down is the way to go. Now, I have a little printout here. This is the press sheet for the Mazda CX-9 for 2022, official from Mazda. So I want to flip through this real quick so you can see exactly what comes with this vehicle. So this is everything that comes standard with the car. We already talked a lot about this, 250 horses, 320 pounds-feet of torque on the premium fuel, and it goes down a little bit once you put the 87 in. All-wheel drive is standard. You have your little G vectoring control plus with the off-road traction assist. And as standard, you get all the safety features. So rear cross traffic alert, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring. That's what I'm saying. I really appreciate that you get all these features with the base model Mazda CX-9. So it comes as a 7-seater as standard with the bench seats in the second row, which is what I like. And you have access to the My Mazda app, which I was referring to with the Wi-Fi hotspot, and you get that for 3 months or up to 2 gigabytes, so whichever comes first. And this 10.25-inch display comes as standard with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it's not wireless or anything like that. You have the push-button start, you have the leather-wrapped shifter, the steering wheel, and the Bluetooth. That's all standard. You have dual front USB inputs, and you get that 6-speaker sound system, which I don't really recommend. I don't think it sounds terrible, but it's nothing like this 12-speaker Bose. Like, this is worth the money. And you have electronic parking brake, the rear view camera, and the privacy window glass for the rear. It'll come with 18-inch wheels, which is definitely what I recommend. And you still get the LED lights in the front, the rear, all that good stuff. The turn signals, all that is going to be LED. And you even get rain-sensing window wipers. So you get all that stuff as standard. So if you want to get a base model CX-9, or really all the base model Mazdas are worth it in actuality. So that's something to really keep in mind. But in this instance, with the CX-9, I'm definitely going to recommend the Touring model, because you get a few other upgrades. Like, that's where you get the kind of leather seats for the first and the second row, apparently not in the third row. All right, you also get that second row slide and tilt function that I just displayed to you there, so it makes it easier to get in and out of that third row. But again, just keep the third row down. But it's nice that they made it a little bit easier to get in and out of that third row by just sliding that second row out of the way. It is nice to have the power lift gate, especially in a vehicle like this, which is a flagship Mazda product. And this is where you get the advanced keyless entry and the auto dimming rear view mirrors with the home link. So you get that garage home link, which is definitely a convenience to have. I wouldn't just stop with the Touring. I would definitely get this Touring premium package, because that's where you can get the 12-speaker Bose premium audio system with a wireless charger. As you can see right here, you have the wireless charging pad. Even though it doesn't do a great job charging your phone, it is a good place to store your phone. And if you can give your phone a little bit extra juice, then I think that's a positive. Definitely a good thing to have, at least. And you'll also start getting LED fog lights with that particular package. And you also get the sunshades in the rear, which I think is a must. So you get all that stuff in the premium Touring package for the Touring model. So definitely get that. It's an extra $2,000. I would recommend. I'm going to go over pricing here in a little bit, but the Touring Plus, that's not really necessary, because that's when you start getting the 20-inch wheels, and that's going to firm up the ride a little bit. Not too much, because obviously this CX-9 Signature rides just fine, but that 18-inch wheel setup is definitely what I want, because it's going to be a little bit of a smoother ride quality. But you will be getting ventilated front seats, so if that's important to you, then you do have to get the Touring Plus. Otherwise, even the heated seats, that's standard even on the base model, so that's great. Now the Carbon Edition, get that if you really like that polymetal gray design with the kind of red interior. If you like that, then go ahead. You also get a bunch of LED lights throughout the interior, so that's mainly what you get there. The Grand Touring, the main thing you have to know about this, that's where you get the 360 view camera. But again, that's not super necessary in my opinion. I can get away with the regular backup camera that I already showed you. And the Signature, that's where you get the kind of quilted seats like you see here, and bespoke 20-inch wheels, right? Slightly larger exhaust pipes in the back. Not super necessary things that you get in the Signature. But more importantly, here's the pricing down the board for all of these trim levels I just mentioned to you here. So it starts at $35,280. So the Touring with the premium package, that's what I recommend. So add about $2,000 to this $37,280 $1,000 price tag, and you're at around $39,500. That's what I would pay personally for this vehicle, and then you add on your destination, taxes, title, whatever. So you're probably going to be around like 42, 43 grand out the door for a CX-9 Touring with the premium package. So that's that. Let's kind of keep going here, show you some more information. You can just screenshot this and look at it later. So it's kind of your additional fees and charges, and these particular colors, they cost a little bit more money, just so you know. Okay, so conclusions on this 2022 Mazda CX-9. So this is a vehicle that I continue to recommend to people. It's a great car for its segment. In my opinion, I do also really like the Kia Telluride, but the problem with the Telluride in this particular market is the fact that a lot of dealerships are charging like 75 grand for it. So there's a huge demand for the Telluride, mainly because it has like that boss-like look to it and demeanor, almost like a Range Rover, if you will, and a lot of people really appreciate that. It by far has the most amount of swagger, the Kia Telluride, in this three-row SUV space, and the CX-9 Mazda kind of lacks that. Again, this is a lot of, this is basically stealth wealth, if you will. Really nice premium vehicle, minus the douchebaggery that comes with owning a big fancy Beamer, Benz, or Audi, right? But you get 95% of what those vehicles have to offer, like 90 to 95% of what those cars have to offer in this Mazda. So you can park this in your neighborhood. Nobody's going to look at you cross-eyed or anything, right? So it's a nice, humble Mazda, but the inside and all the features that you get, it's really, truly fantastic. So you get that touring package with, that touring trim with the touring premium package on it. You're going to be super satisfied with what this vehicle has to offer. I think that's going to be the sweet spot for this particular product. It's quiet, it's comfortable, and it can ride even better with the 18-inch wheels. It's the safety of it as well. It's an IIHS top safety pick, right? And it continues to be that even with the upgraded side crash testing. This vehicle still prevails in all those crash tests, so you can be confident that you can put a family in here and not really have to worry. And you know, it's something to consider even over the CX-5 Mazda. So with the CX-5 Mazda, a little bit more constricted space. I mean, it's not bad. You can definitely get it. In my opinion, just getting a base model version of that car with the, you know, regular 4-cylinder engine around 27 grand, that's what I recommend. But if you're looking at getting a turbo CX-5, you might want to step up to even the CX-9, because as you can see, you have a lot of space with a third row down, a lot of other cubby spaces as well. And yes, it's going to be a little bit slower, a little bit more lethargic compared to the CX-5, but I think the comfort and the space might persuade you otherwise. But as far as refinement goes, I mean, this and the CX-5, they're pretty much identical now. Pretty much the same build quality, interior, infotainment, everything. It's pretty much all the same. So it's really up to you what you want. Me personally, if I had a family, I might consider getting the CX-9 over the CX-5. I really would. But really up to you. If you value driving the most and you only need to seat 5 people and you don't really care about space too much, the CX-30 is the best handling SUV in the Mazda lineup. It's also the quickest. It also reacts the quickest, the way they have that drivetrain set up. So that's something else to keep in mind. So yeah, continues to be a vehicle that is pretty much class leading. You know, it's up there. It's one of my more favorite options. So I think I saw on Mazda's website they're offering like 1.9% APR for 36 months financing. So if you want to pay the vehicle off quickly, that's a good option, I guess. And I think there's like $500 of loyalty cash if you already have a Mazda and you're trading it in or something. So that's something to take advantage of, if you will. So yeah, get this vehicle. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And if you want to see my full review on the Mazda CX-5, then check out the end screen here.